Welcome back to talkSPORT USA, talkSPORT's dedicated US YouTube channel, bringing you all things NFL. Myself, Varney, here in Berlin this weekend, ahead of the Atlanta Falcons taking on the Indianapolis Colts, live at the Olympia Stadium. Live commentary, of course, on talkSPORT 2, a live watch-along here on the channel as well tomorrow afternoon. And look, to get a bit more insight into the Atlanta Falcons, what we've seen from them so far this season, absolute pleasure to say Falcons beat reporter for the AJC, Mr. D. Orlando Ledbetter joins us. D, welcome to Berlin. How are you, my man?
Hey, I'm doing great, Will. Thanks for having me on the show. Glad to be here in Berlin for some American football.
Look, great to have your company. Look, really looking forward to it. First off, what have been your overall reflections of what you've seen from this Falcons team through these first 9 weeks of the season, 3-5 record? What have you made of it all?
Yeah, it's been a bizarre start to the season. A lot of highs and some lows here for the Atlanta Falcons as they switch over to Michael Penix at quarterback. You know, they started off pretty good, played the Bucs tough, beat Minnesota, then dropped off the face of the earth and lost to the Panthers, who hadn't won yet. Then came back, beat the Commanders, and then beat the Buffalo Bills and started getting a lot of playoff talk. But things haven't gone well since that game. They've lost 3 in a row, haven't been able to consistently run the football, and the defense has been improving. So been just a up and down all over the place, schizophrenic start to the season for the Atlanta Falcons.
You mentioned there some of the struggles that they've had. You said 3 defeats on the bounce. What do you put those struggles down to? Is it coaching? Is it personnel? What's your assessment on why it hasn't worked, especially since that Buffalo game?
Yeah, it's been a combination of all of those things. You know, the offensive play calling has been under scrutiny. You know, they want to run the ball, but they're running it out of the pistol formation. Haven't been successful in the last 3 games, been held to 62, 45, and 71 yards. You know, that's, you know, after going for 210. But you knew that people were going to gang up to stop the run after you gashed Buffalo for 210. So you should have been expecting how you're going to counter that, how you're going to throw the ball around that. Can you fake the run and throw the pass? That would be a call to, you know, play action pass. And they haven't shown that they've been able to adjust when people have been able to take things away.
You mentioned there about the offense. For me, watching back the Patriots game, I think what stood out for me was just that final offensive drive and the intentional grounding penalty that, of course, then moves you out of field goal range, and it's costly penalties that really make an impact on this team. You mentioned about the offensive struggles there. Is this offense too predictable? Like you say, they're constantly out of the pistol formation. Feels like it's a lot of swing passes to Bijan. It's trying to find Kyle Pitts on 3rd down, and it's trying to look for Drake London at any point whatsoever. Is it too predictable? Is that what's holding them back right now?
Yeah, I think what they haven't been able to do is to come up with counters. So, you know that they're doing, you know, we know they're looking for Bijan and London. So, of course, the people who have been watching film all week know who's going to be that counter. They tried to make it Kyle Pitts in the game where Kirk Cousins started. They threw it to him 9 times, but it was short stuff. He wasn't able to do a lot with it. They tried to run Algier at times. He wasn't able to do a lot with it. Those are your counters. Those 2 guys have to step up and do a little bit more, and they really need Darnell Mooney to take his role and be a force in the offense. So it's a matter of all of them coming together. We know what they can do. They can run the ball with Bijan. They can throw it to Drake. They need to do more. And, you know, some of that's play calling, some of that's on the players. But, yeah, that last drive was just dysfunctional with the intentional grounding for the 2nd time in a row. You know, they had some problems with the snap. That's just execution 10 games into the season, stuff you can't see. And they could have played it better. Penix could have took the sack, one, could have made a football play, juked the guy and got around him and took the loss. But you can't, no way you could, you know, not throw that grounding call and lose it down with the game on the line like that. So, you know, that's a young quarterback. Young players going to make mistakes. And the Falcons got to decide if they're going to live with those mistakes and move forward and grow.
Before we get into Penix, because I think it's a really interesting situation with the quarterback, what is the overall mood around the organization right now? You know this team better than really anyone. You've spent so much time with this team. What is the mood right now? How is the feeling, especially? Because it feels like there is growing pressure, especially on Raheem Morris, especially on Zach Robinson, the OC, with these constant struggles that we're seeing. Yeah,
no doubt. They appear to be pretty upbeat yesterday when they came in. Excuse me, Will. a big-time game coming up here against the Colts, but I don't think they're undaunted, and they're not worried about their jobs. They're veterans. They've been around and so forth. But the key will be to get some help for Zach Robinson to get this offense going.
So it's a really interesting situation, I think, with Michael Penix Jr. in particular. Look, he was drafted 8th overall in last year's draft, and what we're seeing from him as a quarterback, is there any concerns for you in terms of him being this franchise guy moving forward, or do you feel like he's still settling into the league?
Yeah, he's still settling in. I'm a traditionalist, and I learned under some of the old guys and so forth. And Gil Brandt's rule was, hey, get to 20 games, and you'll know what you got. It's only been 10 games.
Yeah.
So he's halfway there to 20. But nowadays people don't get to that 20. We're seeing guys get ran out of town. Daniel Jones, the coach for the quarterback for the Colts, Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield. But they were past the 20-game mark before those teams made the decision to move on or to go forward. So 10 games is too early. There have been some highs. There have certainly been some lows. But I'm willing to get to 20 and see what we got, because I like the arm talent.
Yeah.
I don't like it when you got a quarterback that, he's cerebral, but, he can't throw the ball.
Yeah.
He can check down underneath and hit zones and stuff like that. You can win that way too. But I prefer to have the big explosive guy that could learn on these first 20 games. He hasn't been able to make those plays on the regular, which we saw he could do at Washington. And he's learning how to throw underneath. So, there's some on-the-job training involved.
Absolutely. And look, you said about the emergence of the emergence of a star, which maybe we will see that in the years to come with Michael Penix Jr. I think we're seeing it right now with Drake London. Like, he's clearly been on the radar for the last few years in terms of his wide receiver talent. Did you see him having this sort of breakthrough? He has a phenomenal week last week. He has been this go-to guy in the offense. Has that always been clear to you that you saw this talent in Drake?
Yeah, it was. I've been telling everybody, I was like, it's clear he's a baller. He can play.
So you knew.
I've been on Drake early, and I was because he had, Desmond Ridder, Mariota. No matter who the quarterback was, he was able to still get 50, 60 balls. The yardage, maybe not in the end zone. You saw him beating big-time corners. And I was like, hey, once he finally gets a quarterback, he's going to be all right.
Yeah.
And so, he said his attitude was, he don't care who the quarterback is. Just throw me, if you throw me the ball, I'm going to catch it. And that's been his take. And even yesterday when they asked him about Sauce Gardner, he's like, I don't care about Sauce. He was respectful, but he's like, I'm going to play my game. I ain't really sweating Sauce. And he did that last week against Christian Gonzalez.
Yeah.
He didn't care about Christian Gonzalez. He went up and scored his 3 touchdowns and 150-something yards, I believe. So, no, Drake is legit. And now they're expecting him to get more double coverage. Or they're hoping they'll get more double coverage.
Yeah.
So that'll open up Pitts and Darnell Mooney and, maybe David Seals or Casey Washington when he gets back. But, yeah, that's Drake London's a given. He's a legit ball player. Now you need your other people to step forward.
And look, we'll get into in a moment looking ahead to the game, because I think that is an intriguing matchup between Sauce and Drake London. But another player I have to touch on who is explosive and continues to show up week in, week out is Bijan Robinson. And he is phenomenal to watch. There was obviously a lot of attention when he was drafted. He was drafted really high, but still, he can week in, week out, is one of the best backs in this league. Are they getting the best out of Bijan right now, or are we just scratching the surface on what we've really seen from him?
Yeah, I think they're getting. I'm fine with his production. A lot of people want more and more and more, but I know that you can't give a guy 300 carries every year. It's the Michael Turner rule, the analytics of the Football Outsider guys, Aaron Schatz and them. The studies that you're gonna wear the guy on the ground.
Yeah.
So 200 running, 80 throwing, just stay under 300, whatever his productivity is there. So you got to throw off of him because you want to, make him last. You don't want him to be a guy that gets 5 years in, now he's worn out.
Yeah.
So, but he's been remarkable. He's sturdy. He's learned how to take care of his body. Knock on wood, he hasn't had a major injury that we know of. So, no, I'm fine with how he's being used. And you gotta, you might be leaning on him too much. But, going forward, you need people to help. You need help. It's they talk about all 11 doing their job. Some of these other guys got to step up and help make some plays, and that'll free him up even more.
Exactly. And what we're seeing, I think, especially on the defensive side of the ball, is a lot of these guys are stepping up. Players who are having to step up in big moments. We've seen that on the defense, especially throughout this season. When you assess Jeff Ulbricht's defense coming in, the front, it feels like, is getting home more than we've seen with the Atlanta Falcons in recent years. Yes. But are there concerns on the back end? What is your assessment right now of this defense?
Yeah, they are doing a great job up front. What they really had to do was solidify the interior, and I think they've done that with lower level, guys that we don't talk about a lot. I won't call them lower level, but Sam Roberts, LaCal London had 2 sacks last week. They let go Tyquan Graham. David Oyamata still getting after it. Zach Harrison's a guy that stepped forward. In the secondary, they got some issues at nickelback, but Billy Bowman's been playing there and looked good before he got hurt, the rookie. So that's D. Alford and Billy Bowman. So you got 2 options there. Outside that corner, popped up on the injury report as questionable yesterday, Mike Hughes, the cornerback who's had neck problems in the past. He popped up with a neck injury, and I saw Billy Bowman working on some outside drops yesterday. So if he can't go, Billy might go outside. But he was a safety in college, not a corner, so that might be a reach. But and then D. Alford, your backup. Bowman's playing. If Mike Hughes can't go, you go to Natrone Brooks. But yeah, the second and third cornerback spots have been unstable, and teams have tried to attack them this season.
You mentioned the rookie Billy Bowman, who I think has really shone in the games that he has played and made a big impact. A couple of those guys on that defensive front, James Pierce Jr., Jalen Walker coming in. What have the impacts have they made so far in their rookie career in the NFL?
Yeah, in the NFL, the outside rushers really don't do a lot that first year. J.J. Watt is one.
Yeah.
He didn't do a lot. Came on later. Javon Curse had a big year a long time ago. So historically, that's a tough spot. But we've seen Jalen Walker get to the quarterback. We saw him make a big play last week. Pierce has only got 1.5 sacks. But at some point, he's going to figure it out that he's playing against grown men, and he's going to be just fine. So he's a guy that, long as you keep seeing those guys ascend and they're not getting knocked off the ball and pushed around, eventually their youth is going to play to their advantage. So they're off to a good start, and they're backed up by veterans and Arnold Ebiketie and Leonard Floyd. So, you don't have to, overplay them. So they've been splitting their repetitions, and they've been productive in that split time arrangement. So I think they're coming along just fine, and, not to be alarmed. But they're playing, they're not getting pushed around, and they made a major contribution against New England with that sack, strip, fumble, recovery, return to the 6-yard line last week.
Well, let's see if Jalen Walker can do it tomorrow. So tomorrow's game against the Colts. What's the one thing that you're going to be keeping an eye on, your main focus? You mentioned that battle between Sauce Gardner and Drake London, which I think is getting a lot of the attention. Is there anything else that you're going to have a particular focus on and be intrigued to look out for?
Yeah, no doubt. The great Jonathan Taylor.
Yes.
He's a fine running back, 895 yards rushing, 12 touchdowns. And the Falcons know that's where the Colts offense starts. So we saw him at practice. They're talking about penetrating. But against the Colts, they're going to get across the line, then get to wherever Taylor's going, make a right turn or a left turn. They're not really worried about Daniel Jones. They're worried about the running back. So that's going to be the key focus that's going to decide this game. Don't stop Jonathan Taylor all game. But if you slow him down, you can put more on Daniel Jones's plate and try to make them one-dimensional. That's what Coach Morris said he wanted to do, and so that's what I'm going to be focused on when I get to the stadium on Sunday.
Now, look, and we saw the Steelers did that last week to the Colts, so exactly, it's a game plan that they know can work. Can they execute it? That's going to be the big thing. D, really appreciated the time. One final question from me. There's a lot of talk about tomorrow's game being of importance for the Falcons as well, trying to get back on track, trying to end this losing run. For me, though, it feels like it's a big 9 games to really define what the Atlanta Falcons want to be. look, feels like after this game in Germany, they've got a nice 3-game stretch where they potentially could get 3 wins on the board, really. I suppose you can't count out the Panthers right now, who are finding some form. But how important is this 9-game stretch for the rest of the season for essentially Raheem Morris to really show that he can be the leader of the Falcons moving forward?
Yes, they talked about making the playoffs right after the Bills game. The owner has talked about making the playoffs. They haven't made the playoffs in 7 seasons. So I'm like, hey, maybe y'all are not ready for that. Maybe it's just time to get back to a winning record, which they haven't had that either since 2017. So, but that's probably not going to please everybody. So it's a very important 9-game stretch for this franchise to get turned back around, to be a legitimate playoff and division contender title. You got to catch Tampa Bay, but you got to do it 1 game at a time. You got to catch the Panthers, who've jumped over you now. So, but you can't keep playing good against good teams and then playing bad against the 1-7 Miami Dolphins. You lost to them big. So you got to find a consistent high level of play and not be all over the board. And over these next 9 games, that's the challenge for Coach Raheem, is to get his team on a heater, so to speak, get his team playing at a high level on a week-to-week basis. And that's coaching. Can you do it? Yeah, you can get up and win 1 game against Buffalo, but then you drop 3 in a row. So unacceptable, and we're getting ready to see if he can get his team up for the Colts, which I expect he has done, and they will play on Sunday. I think they do win. But the test for me is what do you do next week when Carolina comes to town? So that's where we're at. It's a very important juncture in the franchise's history. Either Raheem Morris is going to get this thing turned around, or the Falcons are still in the backwoods of the National Football League.
And look, that's not where you want to be.
You
don't want to be there. And look, you can only beat what's in front of you. Tomorrow it's the Colts. Really can't wait to see how it plays up, D. Look, have an amazing time in Berlin. Thank you so much for joining us here on talkSPORT. Wishing you all the best.
All right, no problem, Will. Thanks for having me.
Thank
all
you.
right.